Before we begin tonight's story, take a moment to support the channel. If you enjoy emotional stories that remind us how powerful family, love, and second chances can be, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Because the story you're about to hear is about a quiet evening, a surprising message, and a moment that changed a mother's life forever. And sometimes the people who love us the most are the ones who remind us that our story isn't over yet. Emily Carter noticed the message almost immediately. Nearly 15 years. Everything felt calm and familiar. Too familiar? Emily stood at the sink, drying the last plate from dinner. It had been a simple meal, soup and toasted bread. She always preferred simple dinners when she was alone, and she had been alone for a long time. Her routine rarely changed. Work at the bookstore, come home, cook something small, clean the kitchen, read a few pages of a novel before bed. Predictable, safe, quiet. For years, Emily had convinced herself that this quiet life was enough. But tonight, the vibration of her phone disrupted that calm. She glanced toward the counter where her phone rested beside a folded dish towel. The screen lit up. A new message from Liam, her son. Emily paused. Liam rarely texted her this late unless something important had happened. Immediately, a dozen possibilities raced through her mind. Did something go wrong at work? Was he sick? Had he been in an accident? She quickly dried her hands on the towel and picked up the phone. Her heart was already beating a little faster. The message appeared on the screen. Mom, I want to tell you something tonight. Please don't be surprised. Emily stared at the words. Something about them felt heavier than a normal message. It wasn't just information. It felt like a moment. She read the sentence again and again. The quiet kitchen suddenly felt smaller. What does that mean? She whispered to herself. Her fingers quickly typed a reply. Of course. Is everything okay? She pressed send. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the familiar 3 typing dots appeared on the screen. Emily waited. The dots blinked, then disappeared. No reply. Emily frowned slightly. That's strange. She placed the phone back on the counter, but kept glancing at it every few seconds. The rain outside grew slightly heavier, tapping steadily against the window. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Not loud, just deep enough to remind her that the storm was there. Emily walked slowly round the kitchen, trying to calm the uneasiness growing in her chest. Liam had always been a thoughtful son. Careful with his words, responsible. Ever since his father passed away nearly 4 years ago, the bond between mother and son had grown even stronger. They had faced grief together, shared long conversations on quiet evenings, supported each other when the silence of the house felt too heavy. Emily had poured everything she had into raising him, working longer hours at the bookstore, skipping vacations, putting aside her own dreams. She never regretted it. Not once. Liam was the best part of her life. But tonight, something about that message made her nervous. Her phone remained silent. Emily sighed softly and reached for the kettle. If she had learned anything over the years, it was that tea helped calm worried thoughts. Within minutes, warm steam curled upward from a mug in her hands. She carried it to the small table beside the window and sat down. Outside, rain slid down the glass in tiny racing streams. Emily watched them absent-mindedly. Her mind wandered through possibilities. Maybe Liam had been offered a new job. Maybe he was moving to another city. The thought caused a small ache in her chest. Of course, she wanted him to succeed, but the house would feel very empty without him nearby. Emily took a slow sip of tea. As she stared out into the rainy night, her thoughts drifted somewhere she tried not to visit too often, to someone she tried not to think about too. Much. Daniel Harper. He had first walked into the bookstore 6 months ago. At the time, Emily had thought nothing of it. Customers came and went every day. But Daniel was different. He didn't rush. He wandered slowly through the aisles, pausing to read the backs of books. Eventually, he approached the counter holding a worn poetry collection. He had asked her a question. Do you think poetry still matters today? Emily had smiled politely. Stories always matter, she replied. That simple conversation lasted nearly 20 minutes. After that, Daniel returned frequently, sometimes twice a week, sometimes just to browse, sometimes just to talk. They discussed authors, old novels, favorite childhood books, and the strange comfort that stories bring to lonely people. Emily noticed something about him very quickly. Daniel truly listened. When she spoke, he paid attention in a way most people rarely did. Not impatient, not distracted, just present. Over time, their conversations became something Emily quietly looked forward to, even though she never admitted it to anyone, especially not to Liam. One afternoon, after closing time, Daniel had hesitated before leaving. He held a book in his hands, but seemed unsure about something. Then he said something unexpected. "Would you like to get coffee sometime?" Emily had been surprised, flattered, and afraid of what it might mean to open that door again. So she smiled gently and shook her head. "I appreciate that," she said kindly, "but I think my life is a little too busy these days." Daniel nodded with understanding, but she noticed the small flicker of disappointment behind his warm smile. Since then, she had wondered more than once if she had made the right choice. Her phone suddenly rang. Emily jumped slightly. The screen flashed a familiar name, Liam. She answered immediately. "Hello. Hey, Mom." His voice sounded different. Not upset, but nervous and strangely excited. "Is everything okay?" Emily asked quickly. "Yeah," Liam replied. "Everything's fine. Actually, I was wondering if I could come by for a few minutes." Emily frowned slightly. "Tonight?" "Yeah. It'll only take a little while." There was a pause. Then he added softly, "It's important." Emily didn't hesitate. "Of course, come over." 20 minutes later, headlights appeared through the rain outside the house. Emily quickly stood and straightened the living room. She adjusted the couch cushions, turned on a warm lamp, and cleared a stack of books from the coffee table. She didn't know why she felt nervous, but something in the air felt like a moment waiting to happen. A knock came at the door. Emily opened it. Liam stepped inside, shaking rain from his jacket. He looked different somehow, not worried, not upset, but filled with energy he seemed to be trying to contain. He hugged her tightly, longer than usual. Emily felt a wave of relief. At least nothing was wrong. "You're not in trouble, are you?" she asked with a small smile. Liam laughed softly. "No, nothing like that." They sat down in the living room, but Liam couldn't stay still. He paced the room slowly, running a hand through his hair, clearly building up the courage to say something. Emily watched patiently. Finally, he stopped and looked directly at her. "Mom," he said gently, "there's something I've been thinking about for a long time." Emily leaned forward slightly. Liam continued, "You've done everything for me, especially after Dad died." Emily tried to interrupt. "Liam, you don't need to." But he shook his head kindly. "No, let me finish." His voice softened. "You stop thinking about yourself completely." Emily blinked. She hadn't expected that. "You work. You come home. You take care of everything." He paused. "But when was the last time you did something just for you?" Emily didn't answer because she honestly didn't know. Before she could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Emily turned toward it, confused. "I'm not expecting anyone." Liam smiled slightly, a mysterious smile. Then he stood up. "I think this is the perfect time." He walked calmly to the door and opened it. Standing outside in the rain was Daniel Harper, holding a small bouquet of white lies.